Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good everything. As you know, my name is Jason Weiss. This is the Ask Jason Weiss show. And although I am an attorney and a coach and a consultant, nothing discussed today constitutes legal advice. Should you seek legal, financial, medical, or anything else, contact a professional directly. If you need legal advice, come to me, but not as part of this show. I am more than happy to help you and more than happy to help out anybody. And that's a great segue to a long-time listener, long-time follower, second time on the show, Randy Ostrow, who we're talking about a personal touch in a digital age. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to give the viewers my take, but then we're going to hear from Randy about what that means. And what that means is that, look, we're digital. Everything is on Instagram. Everything is on, Facebook and TikTok and all this. And we all want instant gratification. We all get bombarded by all of these videos. It could be something as important as somebody's missing to, hey, my cat, just went ahead and attacked, a ball of yarn. So people put everything up there. So in this digital age, it's still hard to stand out. And what Randy is doing and what I'm also doing, but we do it with different clientele, is trying to make that difference, trying to stand out. And that's what Randy does. So it's a personal touch in a digital age. Randy Ostrow, he is here. He is the connector and the connected guy. So Randy, thanks for coming back to the show.
Jason, it's always my pleasure. We are friends. Besides doing this podcast together, we've gotten to know one another. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. And, coming back as a second-time guest of yours, it's really interesting because my business has evolved since then. And, I'll start by saying that I started my company next month in September. It'll be 21 years ago. And during those years, I spent the majority of my time consulting to small businesses that had teams that were trying to just do the business, but there was nobody inside the organization really focusing on relationship development. A lot of businesses, whether it's an insurance salesman or even an attorney or a construction company, they're constantly looking for new opportunities. And oftentimes I felt that they were not really giving enough love and showing enough attention to their existing clients who could be great referral sources. And I went into a lot of different companies, had a lot of success working with different people and helping to keep their brands top of mind. It's evolved. And about 5 years ago, I started getting phone calls from friends of mine who have kids that are coming out of college asking me, can I make phone calls to help their kids get jobs, or could I help them? And the first person that I worked with, he graduated from Lehigh, and he had a pretty decent idea of where he wanted to go, and I helped him. And through that process, I realized that the same tactics or techniques and strategies that I could use with a business client to get more referrals from their existing relationships and have closer bonds with, okay, you're a financial advisor, your client is mom and dad. You want to have a relationship with the kids as well, with the attorney, with the accountant, so that business always stays with you. And the common thread was always the relationships. And go ahead.
And that's what it's all about, right? The common thread is the relationships. And look, we're in a book club. We had book club today. We're doing Shoe Dog. It's the story of Nike. For anybody that's hasn't read it or doesn't know about it, it's so far so good. We're only a couple of chapters in, and I'm not going to spoil anything except I'm enjoying the book. Yes. But one of the things that we talked about in the book club today is that we like to do things with people that we like. It doesn't have to be that I am a Jewish dude from South Florida, and I only want to hang out with other Jewish dudes in South Florida. No, it's I want to hang out with Yankees fans. I want to hang out with sports fans. I want to hang out with people that value family. Like, that's what I care about. And it's, look, you could not fit into that, and I still want to hang out with you. But if you can establish that common thread, that's huge, right? That lets you know where your thought process is. It reminded me of that Dr. Seuss book about the snitches, the sneetches, the ones with the stars and the ones that butter their bread upside down and all of that. And by the end, everybody was everything, and that's how it was. But at the same time, in this digital age, what we're talking about is we just get so bombarded with so much stuff, and so much of it is nonsense, that if you and 18 other people are applying for that same job that they might give to one of you 18, but more than likely will bring somebody from inside and give them that job, or just cancel the job search because nobody knows what the heck is going on with the economy these days. You gotta stand out. And I'm going to tell a quick story about something that Randy and we developed. About a handful of years ago, I was interested in being a general counsel for a startup airline. And Randy and we sat and we chatted and we came up with something that I sent them the old styrofoam planes. And I sent it to them. And I said, why don't you take a flyer on me? And that got their attention. And I got the interview. And then the door was open for me to take the job. And I did. And I worked on it for a little while and couldn't raise enough funds. But it is what it is. It crashed and burned. No pun intended. But, it never took off. But ching.
Wow.
But little things like that. Randy, I don't want you to give away your playbook and your
No. Listen,
but,
Jason, here's the thing. I can teach this stuff to a lot of different people, and ultimately giving them a playbook, it's still going to be on them to follow through and do these different things. Okay. I've been talking with a lot of recent college grads, recently, even some retired athletes who are now getting into the work world, and they feel that they're lost and stuck. And one way to push over that first domino and then create that domino effect is by just starting, and by taking a different approach than just sending a resume and a generic cover letter. For me, it's all about, hey, do research. You're going to be speaking with, whoever the person is. The internet provides us, this digital age provides us with access to all the information that we would ever want. Why somebody would be just on LinkedIn, as an example, just doing easy apply. I don't know one person that's gotten a job from an easy apply situation. It often comes from being different and standing out, and making the person aware of who you are and why you're different. Even something so simple as catering your cover letter to the person. Hey, Mary, obviously I did my research prior to reaching out to you. I saw on your Facebook, you just are preparing for the New York City Marathon. That's awesome. By the way, I was looking at the job for community development, and here's some reasons why I think you and I should talk. As opposed to the generic, here's my resume, here's all these buzzwords of, project management or SaaS or whatever the case may be, that gets lost. And what I'm learning is, in the world of HR and hiring, is that these days, again, the digital world, there are machines scanning these, or intelligence, maybe machines is the wrong word, but there's intelligence scanning these resumes. And if you don't hit certain words and certain, almost like SEO back in the old days, you want South Florida law,
right,
and get real specific. I'm learning that it's more of the same thing. And what I'm also learning is it's the exact same thing as if you're running a business and you want to get someone's attention and be on their radar. And something very interesting is there are companies that are hiring that don't even know they're hiring. And what I mean by that is they have a business. I'm thinking of one in particular with our friend Austin from our book club, where I was coaching him, working with him, putting him through the personal touch and the digital age curriculum. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. So I went to one of my business clients and I said, hey, are you hiring? No. I go, listen, you want to meet this kid? He's a good kid. He went in, they had an interview. He did great. They loved him, and they still were on the fence. But what he did was the follow-up, the proper follow-up. Hey, so-and-so, it was great to meet you. I see what you're building there. I think I could bring some passion. Guess what? He's been there 2 months. The kid seems like a different person than when I met him 4 months ago. You could maybe even attest to that, Jason.
Yep, definitely
you see him and the way he communicates, and it brings me a lot of gratification to hear from someone, hey, you helped me. You changed my life. Hey, I can't believe I was doing it wrong for so long. The job search, that is. Hey, I went to Tulane. I went to University of Michigan. How is this stuff not being taught? So I'm happy to give away my playbook, but it's the coaching around it that's required, because otherwise most people just, great information, but they don't do the stuff. So I hope that makes sense.
And look, there are so many little things that people don't get anymore, right? Because we're in what we call a more relaxed or informal phase of work, right? I mean, look, I wear a t-shirt every day to work, right? But if I have a meeting with a potential client, or I have a meeting with a client that is, whatever, I'm going to, at a minimum, put on a collared shirt. If it's a potential new client, and because of the field that I work in, and if it's for legal work, I'm putting on a jacket and a tie, right? Because you never get a shot to make a first impression twice. You only get it once. I would rather a client, and this happens to me all the time. Hey, Jason, next time you show up for one of our meetings, lose the jacket, lose the tie. Cool, no problem. Two things. One, that means, and I'll say, look, this was a first meeting, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one not ready to go. Or, specifically, I did research with a company that I wanted to do business with, and I wanted to do fractional work, and they only wear their swag. So what did I do? I went to online, went to Amazon. I was able to buy something with their logo and their swag from it, and I had it on. It was delivered same day. It was just a t-shirt, same day. And when I showed up, they're like, wait, you know our stuff? I'm like, of course I do. Where'd you get it? Oh, I got it on Amazon. Doesn't matter. I wasn't going to lie and said I was at one of your trade shows and picked it up. I got it on Amazon. I wanted to feel like part of the team. And believe it or not, it worked. I'm doing legal work for them.
Nobody else does that, Jason. There's not one other person that showed up for the interview in their swag. It didn't happen.
But one of the things you said really hits home, because even when I'm, I do fractional work. So of course I'm always trying to, get more fractional work and work with companies and all of that. Just a follow-up. It was great chatting with you, and, look forward to speaking with you. I'll get an address. I'll send them a book. I just sent one out to a woman who's general counsel for a company, and they're looking for something. And she was telling me about her hobbies having to do with one or two different sports and spending time with her dog. So I said, look, when you take a break from work, sports, and dogs, sit down and have a read on me, my treat. Little things like that. You also have a unique situation in that you have written 2 books. So that is, in my opinion, the ultimate business card, right? Because it gives you tons of credibility, and it shows that you're a subject matter expert in your field. So for all the people that have not written books, right? Because a lot of job seekers haven't written books, they still have the opportunity to make a really big impact. Okay. And none of it is rocket science. I was talking with someone earlier today. Yeah, it was earlier this morning. And I was talking about sending people handwritten notes and, thank you notes. And he's like, shit, I don't even get a thank you email or a text these days. Yep.
And in my mind, I was like, exactly. And
look, and you and I had this dialogue, right? I think handwritten notes are the way to go, but sometimes you have that, look, I want to get a handwritten note, but I want to get it to that person today, right? I want to stay fresh on their mind today. What you posted on LinkedIn like 2 days ago was spot on. What did you post on LinkedIn like 2 days ago?
Well, I think what you're referring to is
something on your laptop.
Yeah, Yeah, listen, okay, so yes, but when I do handwritten notes, it's really interesting because I used to go to the post office every single day. And these days, I take pictures of my handwritten notes and I text them to people, and people think like I invented fire. They're like, I've never seen that before. And I'm like, it took me 3 seconds.
Right.
The real timing is the thought that goes into what's on the paper, because there are plenty of people that will send a thank you email or a text and it's like, hey, thank you, and that's it. And while that is better than nothing, I really like to try to highlight, hey, Jason, when we were on the phone earlier and we were talking about Shoe Dog and that reflection that you gave about how, when he was running, and being very specific, overly specific, actually, to bring that bond together. We'll call it connective tissue. The same way inside your body, there's something that connects this part of your arm to your elbow. If you don't have that connective tissue, you have nothing. And the way to get that connective tissue is just by using the digital availability of information. It's all out there. It's all out there. And now the problem is people want immediate gratification. Like you said earlier, doing research can take 15, 20, 30 minutes if you really want to get into it and hit them on all the social media channels to be like, ooh, she's part of a golden retriever club. I used to have a golden retriever. We are going to talk about golden retrievers today. And everything else is secondary. Jason, you shared a story with our book club. About listening. And it's not important what the meeting was, but about listening and how you stopped yourself a couple of times, and share a little bit about kind of what happened. Obviously not the specifics, but just generally.
Speaking with a potential new client for a fractional role, because that's what I do. And I found myself numerous times literally like holding on to my desk or the table, or like pushing myself on my leg to not say anything. Because normally I would jump into the conversation and I'd be like, oh my God, I had the same thing. Or no, I let him talk. And we were on for about 45, 50 minutes, and he probably did 40 minutes worth of the talking. And the only couple of things I really talked about was when he said to me, do you have any questions, or how would you handle this? Of course I answered those, but I let him keep going. I also, beforehand, I did my homework. I knew that this gentleman was a soccer fan. I knew that this gentleman spent time in a foreign country. My brother happens to be a coach in a foreign country of a soccer team. He's the assistant coach for Stuttgart, which is in Stuttgart, Germany. And we started talking about it. So I was able to say to the guy, look, I know you're a huge soccer fan and you love soccer. And he even told me, I played a little bit amateur wise. I said, oh, so you never made it to the Stuttgart team? He goes, no, that team's really good. I said, well, if you ever want to see a game, in Stuttgart, he's like, well, and he said, what he was a fan of instead. And I said, well, here's the deal. If we start working together, let's go to Germany. Let's go watch your team play Stuttgart. He's like, that would be cool. I'm like, yeah, let me just make a phone call to my brother. And he's like, what do you mean your brother? I'm like, yeah, he's the assistant coach over there. And he's like, oh my God, like boom, 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 boom. It worked out as, again, something in common. Right? Yes. We're two totally different individuals, our background, our hobbies, our whatever, but that was the common tie. So now when he thinks about, I'm going to watch a soccer match. Oh my God, Stuttgart is on the TV. Oh man, I owe Jason a contract that I got to get over to him, or, we got to settle our bill, or, those common things. But I know I used your tip when I knew I wanted to get for one of my clients, I wanted to just show appreciation for trusting in me and doing all this. I wrote a handwritten note when I was sitting in the car. I snapped a picture of it. I texted it. She loved it. Loved it.
How many of those is she getting a day?
0. How many of those is she getting a month? 0. And that's what it's all about. So I think the whole gist of it is this. Look, everybody can apply, right? Easy apply button you sent on LinkedIn, right? I'm sure by the time you look at any given job, anywhere between 17 and 1,000 people have applied. What makes you different from those 17 or the 1,000? And here's the thing, and we'll go over for a second or two, and then we'll take a break. But here's the thing, right? And I don't have the algorithm, and I would love to know what it is. If you hit easy apply, and if you then reach out to the person that's hosting it, right? If it's easy apply and it's general counsel of ABC company, and I know general counsel is Mary, and I hit easy apply, and then do I write to Mary and say, hey, Mary, I just want to let you know I did the easy apply thing. However, I wanted to make sure this got to you because, as both of us are University of Miami alumni and we both went to law school there, we both know the importance of follow-up and clarifying. Hope this finds you well. And, thanks for taking the time. Sincerely, Jason. Boom, done. Like, I don't know if that's considered overkill or if that would remove me from the process, but if it does, then screw it. I don't want it.
Very good. And you know what? You could actually teach a personal touch in the digital age. You are applying it daily in your life. And it's amazing. I think that these little adjustments and thought process and techniques can change everything. And I've been doing it with people, and I get referrals from people, and they're now thinking about things differently. Yep. And the mindset of going into an interview, like who's interviewing who and what's really going on there, there can be some power that can be taken back by the job seeker, and they're not just beholding to whatever it is the company wants. We're interviewing each other, right? Exactly. And that's where a lot of young people and or retired military, retired athletes, they maybe have the wrong perception because they feel like it's uncomfortable. But the truth is, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And if your intuition is telling you that this person who's interviewing me, if they're a representative of the company, I wouldn't want to work here anyway. So people who are in that job search mindset, coming from a place of strength, is very powerful, and getting that power is available through the information, finding that connective tissue. And then from there, you now stand out. You're different than every other candidate, and it works wonders. It takes courage.
So I'm gonna throw some courage out there right now. We're gonna take a 30-second commercial break. We're gonna thank our sponsors, and we're gonna be back, and we're gonna talk about what Randy is actually doing, who he's working with, what he's looking for, and most importantly, how he can help you. So let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in 20 seconds.
Thanks, Jason.
We are back. I am Jason Weiss. We're on the Ask Jason Weiss show. Although I am an attorney, nothing said here today is legal advice. If you need an attorney, go hire one. There's no attorney-client privilege. There's none of that here. And again, this is for entertainment and pure education purposes. I have Randy Ostrow with me, who is teaching us how to have a personal touch in a digital age. And Randy, before I forget, if people want to find you, what's the best way to find you? I know for those that are watching, we now have we have the information below, but for those of you that are listening, it's Randy with a Y, RANDY at Ostrow, OSTROW advisory.com and www.ostrowadvisory.com. You could always find him on LinkedIn. He's on Instagram as well. And if you're watching, his phone number is posted, but I don't feel like reading it across the air. So we're good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jason, a lot of people find me on LinkedIn, Randy, RANDY, Ostrow, OSTROW. And I'm always available. I care about what I do. I love to help people. And I love making connections. And I
Yeah,
love
and I think he oversells his availability all the time. He's like, I'm available 24/7. I'm gonna say he's available about 23/7 because he needs that 1 hour to sleep, use the bathroom, brush his teeth, and all of that. So I'm gonna say he's a slight exaggerator. He'll tell you he's available 24/7. I'm gonna go 23/7. Sorry, Randy. I had to put you in your place.
You know what I tell people, Jason, is if you have my phone number and we have a relationship, that if you reach out and I don't get back to you in like 3 to 6 hours, you should call the police. And that's because I have a strong desire to close the loop on things. It's very important. And that's where follow-up comes from. I got taught that at a very, very, very young age, that staying in touch and almost over communicating with people is better. And the example that came better than not, the example that came up recently, a couple of weeks ago, was with a financial advisor, a money manager, who has a nice book of business. He's a friend of mine. He's a client of mine as well. And he was explaining to me how some of his team members, when the market is going through some corrections, let's call that, they're very, very, very shy to pick up the phone and call the clients. And he, who is the biggest rainmaker in the organization, he has the biggest clients. Those are the days when he picks up the phone and calls very quickly, early in the morning. Hey, Mr. Johnson, we're going to have a rocky day today, but I wanted to let you know that I got you. We're not making any drastic moves. And he's told me over the years that has resulted in referrals, because when they're at the golf course or at the poker game and one person is saying, hey, I can't believe the Dow tumbled 600 points today, and I'm trying to get a hold of my financial advisor and I'm being told he's in a meeting, and the other guy's like, Jim called me this morning.
Right. And look, even if it's not a phone call, right? My guy, he does the same thing, right? With all my $47 that I have invested out there, all $47, I'll get an email and it will say, hey, I just want to let you know the market is a little bit crazy right now. I moved, 46 of your $47 into bonds or cash or whatever it is. So we're going to ride it out. And once the opportunity is there, but don't worry, blah, blah, blah. Just some sort of, you hear it on the news, you hear it on Fox, you hear it on CNN, you hear it on CNBC, you listen to it all. I don't care political affiliation, but they're going to tell you stocks are going up. My guy will tell me stocks are going down. My guy tells me, and he at least he's there. For all I know, he could do the same email, but it gives me comfort that it's being looked at, that it's not just, we're going to ride it out, right?
It's not transactional. Jason,
correct.
It's the opposite of transactional. I had somebody say to me probably 4 or 5 years ago, a business client of mine, they were a little frustrated with me. And the president of the company, we had a meeting. He goes, you're not transactional enough. I go, what does that mean? He's like, you're working with our sales team and we want them to be ringing the cash register all day long. And you want them to be building relationships. And I was like, listen, when we started this process, we talked about it being about building relationships, and the transactions have followed. It's now 45 days into our engagement, and you're wondering why the cash register is not ringing and your people are not being transactional, because in the long run, you're going to win. And he believed in me and we believed in each other. And about 9 months into the process, he was like, dude, we're getting referrals. We're getting business from places we never expected. And to go back to something I said earlier, they were constantly looking elsewhere. Where could I get business here? Where could I get business there? And instead, we focused on their 250 existing clients and went deep dive into, how's Jimmy doing at Syracuse? How was the dog's neutering? You got the new puppy?
Right.
Everything good? Send me a picture. Oh, how is, puppy do, or whatever you name the dog? That changes everything. Now
it does. It shows that you're there. And look, have a cheat sheet, right? I talk about this in my books. Have a cheat sheet, right? Know that, Randy is a hat guy. Know that Max is a golf guy. Know that, Mary is a NFL, a Miami Dolphins fan. Like, know your people so that's it. Mary's a Miami Dolphins person. Oh my God, I watched the game on TV and I it was like, you must have been in pieces, but thankfully they won. Then Mary's going to say, oh man, he reached out to me
on a Sunday. On a
Sunday. Let me say hi. Let me see how his son's doing in college. Let me see. It's all about that, like you've always said, that personal touch. And what that personal touch is to you, to me, to the listeners, it's all different, right? To me, the personal touch is, shoot me a quick email. Hey, Jason, just trying to say hello, right? Because if you call me, there's a good chance I'm not getting back to you during normal business hours. Look, I know when one of my clients is traveling and driving because he's in South Florida, but he goes up north a lot and he'll drive and do all this. I know when he's leaving South Florida to go up north. Why? Because that's when he'll call me for 2 or 3 days straight because he's driving and he knows I'm up and working at 7:30 in the morning, and he'll call me and he'll be like, yeah, I just hit the road and I got a cup of coffee and I like chatting with you. What's up? And you know what? It hasn't turned into much business for me from him, but he went ahead and referred 4 people over to me. And those 4 people, and the joke is, look, I could speak to you anytime, but when so-and-so is traveling from 7:30 to 8 a.m., that's our time. And they're cracking up. They're like, we know that's what he does. He calls us after he calls you and blah, blah. So again, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Well, there is a wrong answer. The wrong answer is, let me go in for the interview or have the meeting, have no follow-up, didn't do your research, and showed up unprepared, right? Short of that, there's nothing wrong. You do your research, you do your follow-up, you stay in touch, right? But I guess the where's the balance of persistence and annoyance?
Well, I think that's a very fair question. And I think that the answer is really simple. It lies in authenticity. Okay, so what I mean by that is if you're trying to manufacture reasons to reach out to somebody, that might be disingenuous. If really we know that Michelle is a Dolphins fan and she's at the game or she's watching it, and we're watching the game and going, holy crap, he just missed that field goal. Michelle, I can't believe that authenticity really comes through. And you don't even give yourself a chance of being authentic if you don't try to make the personal connection.
Right.
There is no authentic. It's a piece of paper. It's a resume. And you know what? Everything is simple. It just takes thought. It takes courage. That's what we were talking about before the break.
Yeah.
Because to reach out to somebody and essentially say, hey, I know you're the HR lead on this job placement. I know you got probably 100 resumes. I'm the one that you want to talk to. I am. And you know what? If that is not something that's okay and it comes off a little too direct, that's okay. But if you kind of like this, I've researched, I'll go back to that community development job. And you know what? I'm not going to make it a long message. We should talk. There's a lot of value that I can add to your company, and I'm excited to get to know you. By the way, one of 2 things happens. One of 3 things. That person receives the email and hits delete and says, what a jackass. Look what they're doing. Number 2, they look at it and they go, wow, that's really interesting. And number 3, which is even better, they circulate it to the whole office and they say, look at this kid. This kid's coming in for an interview and this mother effer is going to do something positive for our company because they already stepped out. They already stepped out.
Yep. Now, look, I'm a straight shooter, as everybody knows. Look, when you and I were sitting a couple of years ago, and you told me this story about that you helped a young lady get an interview.
Yes.
And it was something that I think it's something having to do with brought fresh baked cookies, right? It was something 100%. Like because it was like. And it was relevant. It wasn't just like I'm bringing cookies to a job interview. It was like she was interviewing, and I'm going to make this part up, at Toll House, and she made Toll House soft batch cookies or something like that. There was some tie-in with the cookies.
If I may, There was no tie-in with the cookies. And that's important because I'll tell you why. The tie-in was she was nervous. And she knew, I said to her, Emma, would you go to someone's house and not bring someone?
That's what it was.
And she said no. And I said, well, you're going to these people's offices where they spend a minimum of 40 hours a week. Bring something. By the way, just to make the story a little bit more detailed, I got a phone call an hour later from her with her husband, who I don't know. And he's going, I don't think she should bring the cookies to the interview. And I go, that's fine. Your wife called me in a panic. Emma, do what you want. That night she called me and she was crying because she was driving and crying and saying to me, they offered me a job on the spot. They told me that nobody had ever done anything so thoughtful. And while the job that I went for, I didn't really have the exact skill set, they created a job for me.
And again, it all has to do with the comfort level because you put it on her. It wasn't, all right, bring the cookies, right? Because my response was, if I were interviewing for a legal job, I wouldn't show up with a thing of cookies, right? That's just not me. But taking that into mind and taking that in, when I recently had a conversation with somebody that wanted some help with marketing and consulting and doing all of this for some of their younger lawyers and to come in and to teach them and mentor and do all of that. When I left the meeting, I said to the gentleman, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be right back. I need to run down to my car for a minute. And he didn't know what he was. He was like, look, I got to make a phone call, but whatever it is, just have the receptionist grab me. And I said, okay, went down to my car, grabbed one of the books because I keep extra books. Dear so-and-so, thank you for the time. Can't wait to, teach you with, the mentoring and read chapter. And, that's what it was. I went up there. I said to the receptionist, I said, this is for him. You don't need to, I see he's on the phone. Don't interrupt him. Please just make sure he gets a copy of this. An hour later, my cell phone rings.
Of course it did.
Oh my God, that was awesome. And I was driving and my wife read me what you wrote. Oh my God, that's incredible. I had her read me that chapter and we're going to go ahead and start implementing that. When can you come in and start training the team? We just need to talk some numbers. That was it. And that was just because I was prepared enough to have a book. So me, what do I do now? I have 3 copies of each of my books and a brand new Sharpie in my car at all times.
Listen, nobody else is doing that, Jason. When I was, I'll just tell you a really quick story, and this goes back to my early roots. My freshman year after college at Ithaca College, I was home and I wanted to get a job, and I thought that I wanted to be in sports management. So I find this company in Queens called Madison Sports Management. Now, what they really did was selling autographed baseballs and jerseys. I thought that they were in sports management, but whatever. So I'm trying to get an interview. The receptionist is like blowing me off. So I got in my car. I went to Morton's in Cedarhurst on Long Island. I went in and I bought a baseball and I came out and I signed the baseball and I sent it to the guy, the owner of the company. I'm forgetting his name right now. And I wrote a note. You should hang on to this ball. It's going to be worth something one day. Got the phone call the day after it arrived, went in for an interview in Forest Hills, Queens, off of Queens Boulevard, and got the job for the summer. And I learned a lot. But let me tell you something. That receptionist was not putting me through under any circumstances. So I had to figure out a way to get to the decision maker. And that was maybe a great life lesson at an early age, because it just taught me that you got to be different and you got to have courage.
Got to be different. Got to have courage. Look, I used to send out Connect 4 games with now I do it with my own coffee, but it used to be a Starbucks coffee card, and I covered up some of it, and it would basically say, let's connect 4 coffee, my treat. And I got a phone call from one of the higher ups who's worth oodles and oodles of money saying, hey, I just want to let you know I received this. What am I going to do with a $15 game and a $10 gift card? Basically he didn't need the money. He didn't need my gift. like, what was the point? I'm like, the point was to get you on the phone, and that's what I did, isn't it?
Check.
Now, he didn't agree with me, but
fine,
I got the phone call, and I got the opportunity, and it turned into work in the future, just not right then and there. So, Randy, this was awesome. Go ahead.
Okay.
You got 1 minute. You got 1 minute.
I was just going to say, take the time to get uncomfortable. If it seems uncomfortable, you're probably doing the right thing. And if you want help or encouragement, we're available. Like, find me on LinkedIn. I'll give you 10 ideas that if you go and implement them, you're going to have a lot of success. And if we like each other, you can become a client of mine, and I'm happy to help you to end up where you want to be. And Jason, you're the best.
I want to give a plug out to one of our common friends, Leo. He is called the Connected Golfer. You got to check this guy out. If you know anything about golf, anything about online, Leo is incredible. He's changing the world. He's got 110,000 followers. He's changing the golf dynamics. He's putting out great things. Check out the Connected Golfer on Instagram. You will not be upset for doing so. Randy, I appreciate you so much for spending your time. People, reach out to Randy. Again, it's Randy at ostrowadvisory.com, or you could find him at ostrowadvisory.com. Find him on LinkedIn, find him on Instagram, and look, you're going to reach out to him. Like I said, 24/7, this guy's available. He needs to build in a little bit of time for brush his teeth and clean his hair and use the restroom and have his coffee and play with his dog and be a family guy. But
love it.
You will not go wrong. This guy's going to help you get uncomfortable and get comfortable being uncomfortable. So, Randy, thank you so much.
Thank you. I love you.
I appreciate everything you do. And
best.
I can't wait to have you back in the show in a couple of months where your business is astronomically booming again, like it should be.
It is happening. This new category is very, very, very.
I think it's awesome. Awesome.
Thank
and
you.
Look, you're a college student and you want to move on to the next thing, or you're going to college or a high school student, talk to this guy. Once you get into the law school stage, that's when we do a handoff. I'll run you from law school on to being a lawyer, but everything else, go right to Randy. Thank you, Randy, for being here. And thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you for the new streamingnetwork.com. Thank you for everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Everyone have a good one.